Hey there, and welcome back to the Direct Selling Accelerator podcast. My name is Sam Hind, and I want to talk today about self-care, regenerating, investing in ourselves, and taking care of us as a number one. Recently, I've noticed that so many of us, so many of our listeners, so many of the people that I'm coming across are just in a state of absolute exhaustion. And as we got chatting in our team meeting this week about what we were going to talk about on our upcoming podcast, it became really apparent that the one thing that everybody was really struggling with was how can we first focus on looking after ourselves and filling up our own cups. Now, as we went through that process, we did something that we do at every one of our team meetings. We always ask everybody to share a success and a challenge from that week. Now, this can sometimes be really hard and sometimes it can be really joyful, but we make sure that everyone shares one of each, one success and one challenge. Now, the thing that happened this week when we went through this process was absolutely everyone was finding the challenges really easy to share and the successes were slightly harder to come by. We all got talking about what we were each going to do to invest in ourselves over the next couple of weeks. Now, as we got talking about this, somebody piped up and went, "Why don't you talk about this on the podcast? Why don't you share some of the things that we came up with as a team with all of our listeners?" And I said, "Well, I feel like I can't share on that right now because we're all in struggle street at the moment. And I kind of want to wait till we come out the other side of it so that I can share how we did it." And Rachel made a really valid point. She said, "That's exactly why we should be sharing this right now. Because sometimes we're so scared to share that we're struggling. Sometimes we're so scared to share what it is that we all have in common." So today I want to come forward and put my hand up and say, do you know what? It's been a really challenging 6 months. 2021 has been a really challenging year. And I know I'm not alone when I say that. It's been challenging because we haven't been able to rely on having the time away that maybe we have been able to do in the past. It's been challenging because we don't know what next week or next month hold for us. It's been challenging because for so many of us, we've had to adapt the way that we do business, the way that we interact, and we've all been starved of human interaction and in many cases, that all important human touch. I know it's a weird one to bring up, but it is so important. It is such an incredible human need. So, as a team, we did a brainstorm and we put together a list of things that we all do and we are going to commit to do to filling our cup. I did an interview in our podcast just recently with the beautiful Jill Stapleton from the DSA Australia, and she shared a quote that was to put the face mask on self first. And I just thought, what an amazing reminder that we need to stop first and look after us before we can look after everybody else, because you can't pour from an empty cup. So we're going to share with you our team brainstorm and some of the things that we each do in order to fill that cup of our own. And you know what? I'd love to hear from you. If you've got some things that you do that were not on this list, share them with us. We'd love to hear from you. So get ready, get your pen and paper. We might just give you a few little tips today. We're going to share with you some of the things that we love to do as a team to look after ourselves. Okay, so let's dive on in. We came up with quite a comprehensive list, and some of these things we all agreed on. Some of them, there were a few laughs that went around the table. But to a degree, all of these things have got a little bit of value to each of us. So we thought we'd share them with you guys. And you know what? One or two of them might just speak to somebody out there. But here are some of the things on our list to fill our own personal cups and to look after ourselves. So the very first one that we talked about, one of the things that all of us do that we love to do from time to time is listen to a good audiobook. Now, this one for me is probably more of a recent joy that I've taken up. And I say that because I love reading novels. I'm going to talk about those in a minute, but I've not really got on board with listening to audiobooks. I guess because I always thought it just wouldn't be as good as if I'm reading the words versus if I'm hearing someone say them. But here's what I've discovered. If you get the right audiobooks, some of them are absolutely amazing. And there are two that we all put down on this list that hands down we think are must listen to books. The first of those is Green Lights by Matthew McConaughey. Now, the reason I love this one so much is because Matthew narrates it himself. So naturally, he puts in an amazing amount of storytelling and emphasis, and he's quite dramatic with the way that he reads his own book. And I really enjoyed every minute of this one. I've also referred it to several other people, and I know they also loved it to death. It's such a beautiful book. It's filled with so many beautiful golden nuggets, little pieces of inspirational information. And I've taken little notes and snippets out of this book along the way and stuck them up on my walls. And I really enjoyed listening to this one. So I can't recommend that one enough. Another one that both Greg and I have listened to, and this one's been a game changer for us from a self-development point of view, is a book called Loving What Is by Byron Katie. Now, this one was actually recommended to me by a Tony Robbins coach recently because I was really struggling with some of the things going on in the world around me and, feeling a little bit resentful about some of the things that had happened, some of the changes that had gone on in life that I didn't have control over. And this person just said to me, Sam, you are worrying about things you cannot control. She said, I really recommend that you listen to this book. And do you know what? I am so glad I took that piece of advice. Now, there is some amazing, amazing stories that are told throughout this book, but you also get to listen to some really awesome little interviews along the way that will literally have you laughing. You'll have tears down your face in laughter as you go through some of these processes. It's really quite extraordinary to listen to. I don't want to give too much away about this one, but what I really love is that Katie shares an inside look into a process that she uses to help people to see the love in every situation. And seriously, it's as simple as asking 4 questions. She takes people from a situation where they've gone through in some cases, some really hellish experiences, and has them not only by the end of it feeling like, you know what, I can see the love in this. She actually has them laughing at themselves. It is just such a beautiful book to listen to. Now, with this one, I've got to say, I don't even know if there's a version you can read, but if there was, I would say please listen to the audiobook. I don't think it will be possible to beat it because you are actually listening to the dialogue of interviews and conversations she has throughout. It's such a beautiful, beautiful audiobook. So if you need something right now to lift your spirits, but also to help you grow and develop, this one is definitely it. All right. Now, let's talk about books. I've always felt a little bit of a guilt around reading a good story or a novel, and I realized I need to stop that. There's part of me that really loves to learn, but there's another part of me that likes to wind down and kind of escape into a really good story. And Rachel and I were both in agreement about this as we went through this list. We love nothing more than sitting down with a glass of red wine or a piece of chocolate or lying down in bed at night with a cup of tea and reading a really good story. In fact, almost every dream of a holiday for me involves a really good book. And that book is not anything that's going to grow me or develop me. It's not something that's going to challenge me or cause me to have to really think about stuff. It's a good story. So we're in agreement that when we are filling our cup and we're doing something that just lifts our spirits, reading a good story is one of those things very, very high up on our lists. So a couple of the stories that we've read recently that we love, a few of our little favorites on our list. Rachel said anything by Maeve Binchy is something that she's really enjoying right now. I've just finished a book called The Midnight Library, and I thought that that was just such a beautiful, special story. I've spoken to a few other people that have read that, and they also really loved it. So if you're looking for a new and recent read, that one's great. Another one that I really enjoyed reading because it was lighthearted, it was great. Rachel and I both had read this one, is called When Grace Went Away. It's, again, just another girly book. It was great to read. It was a beautiful story. We really enjoyed that. And then I've got one of my all-time favorites. Now, I've read this book, I'd say probably 3 times now. And when you first look at it, you'd be like, are you kidding me? It's a big book. But this one is based on a true story, and it's filled with amazing tales of enlightenment. It's an incredible story, and it will have you laughing, crying, every emotion possible you'll feel throughout this story. It is so, so beautiful. This one is called Shantaram, and I love it so much. One of my very, very favorites. Such a beautiful book. So if you haven't read that one, please put it on your list. Even if you're not a novel reader, a fiction reader, this one's not fiction. So you can pick this one up and know that, you know what, I'm not investing in a story that doesn't help grow me. This one will. It's a true story, and I promise you it will help to grow you. You'll be a better person for reading that book. So that one's Shantaram. The next one that we got talking about was podcasts. Now, I figured that we would need to mention podcasts, being that that's exactly how we're giving you this list in the first place. So we do love to listen to some good podcasts along the way. Now, I've got some of my favorites that are business podcasts that I love to listen to. I've always been a big fan of people like Amy Porterfield and Rick Moretti. These guys are fantastic. They're great to listen to, really beautiful. And, I do a lot of learning along the way. But sometimes we want to listen to something that isn't so much about the business side, but more about the personal side. And there's some really great ones out there. I love also Dorothy and the Dealer by MJB Seminars. It's a great one if you want to do a little bit of personal development, enlightenment, etc. And Rachel mentioned all of the Brené Brown podcasts are some of her favorites. So you've got Unlocking Us and Dare to Lead were her two favorites in there. These are on my list. I haven't listened to them yet, so I can't give you my recommendation on those two, but I have heard so many people say that they're game-changing and amazing podcasts to put on your list. So there are just a few for you that I highly recommend. Now, another thing that for me is vitally important, and I know that different people go through different stages of this, but one that for me, I know when I haven't been investing the time in this is having a coach to talk things through. Now, for me, a coach is different to having a counselor or a psychologist, and all of those things have got their place. But a coach, whether it's business or personal, is someone that helps to keep you accountable to your goals and your life mission. They also help you have some clarity around what they are. Now, I find this really vital because we go through ups and downs in life. We go through challenges. We go through peaks and troughs. And the thing is that at different times, you need someone to remind you what it is that you're here for. And if you need to, re-steer yourself, you've got someone who's there to help you do that. So a coach, a really great coach, won't just talk you through what's going on, but they will help to keep you on track with what really matters to your heart and your soul. And the other thing about a coach is that they will call you to account. I have fired coaches in the past because they have not kept me accountable. They let me dictate what I do and when and what I talk about, and that is not what I want in a good coach. There is one other thing that for me over the years has become really important with having a great coach, and that is somebody that charges you. I've had people offer free coaching before, and I will always say no, and here is why. When a coach charges you and when it's a little bit painful to pay them, so when it's maybe a little out of reach, you will go out of your way to get the results that you need in order to take that pain away. You will take it seriously. I've noticed that when I've coached people in the past, when you do trade out or people might be given a coaching session with you, they don't take the advice seriously. And for me, I want to know that when I go in there, I'm going to listen to what they say. I'm going to take that time I have with them. I'm going to make good use of it. And I'm going to make sure that I tick all of those boxes and do everything that I commit to doing. Because you know what? I'm paying for this time. I'm paying for this advice, and I want to make good use of it. So for me, I'm a big believer in not just having a coach, whether it's personal or business is up to you, but paying them for their expertise. And the other thing about that is I really believe that it's important that you show people that they're valued. And so if I've got a coach and I'm paying them to give me advice, I want them to know that I really value them in my life because they're making a big impact in who I am and where I'm going and what legacy I leave when I leave this world. So I want them to know that I really value them so that they make sure that they bring to the table their very best as well. So that one's a really big one for me. And again, I know different people see this differently. And I think that's the beauty of this list is you can grab from it what hits you, what makes sense to you. So if that one's not for you, that's fine. Maybe one of the others is, but that for me has been a really big one. And I know that at those times in my life when I haven't had a coach and I have gone through periods, they've been probably the most challenging times where I haven't actually achieved what I've wanted to in those times. I haven't been held accountable and I kind of flounder a little bit. So I've had some amazing coaches throughout my career and I sure hope and I'm confident that as I feel like I'm a toddler in this career, I've got so much more to go and so much more to give. And I'm sure I'm going to have some even more incredible individuals along the way as, I grow, evolve, and change. So I'm excited to see where that journey goes. All right. So the next thing on our list is one that initially came from Greg, but all of us just went, yes, really important one, really good one. And this one is friends. Greg made the point that having some friends that you can bounce things off is super important, but not just one friend. For Greg, he said that it's really important that he has multiple different friends for different purposes. So, you've got that person you can talk to about work stuff. You've got the person that you can go to about something relationship related. You've got someone you can talk to about something, the shed flooding or, the kids having issues. You've got various different people for different times in your life. If you want to have a laugh, you know who that friend is that you can pick the phone up to and have a laugh with. Now, one of the things that I love about Greg is that he is super social. He makes friends really easily. He knows a lot of people. And I know that that's not how all of us work. One of the things that has been a challenge for me over the years is I've been so focused on work and such a dedicated high achiever that I haven't made a lot of time to connect on a really close level with a lot of people. I know a lot of people, but I don't have a really close friendship with a lot of people where I could just simply pick the phone up and talk to them about anything and everything. And this is one of my things on my list that I want to improve because I know how important this is. And so being able to connect with lots of different people in different ways, I think is an amazing gift and certainly one that I'd like to work on because I know that when Greg goes through tough times, he's got a ton of different people he can call on. So if that's you, don't undervalue those friendships, nurture them because I really feel like when you get to those moments where you need that person to pick the phone up to, it's good to know that you can and you've got that person there at the other end. And having various different people for different things is a really great way of doing this. So I really liked that one. I thought that was a really important one. And he certainly says that it's something that keeps him sane in crazy times. All right. Next one on the list was getting into nature. Now, it was really funny as we talked through this one. We all do it in a different way. For Rachel, she loves going out for an early morning walk with her dogs before anyone gets up. So breathing in the fresh air, being out before other people are around. So she's sort of got solo quiet time. And for her, that one is really valuable and important. For me, it's doing things like taking my shoes off and going for a walk outside on the grass, even if it's just for a few minutes, taking a few deep breaths. Or even I love just lying in the sunshine, when the sun's beaming down and you can just feel it warming you up. I love to just go lie down in the grass or, sit outside in a chair and just have the sun on me. It just makes me feel so much joy when I'm feeling a bit depleted. So that one's a really big one for me. But I know with Greg, it's things like getting out, going for a walk or going for a water ski or something like that. So, whatever that is for you, I think that for all of us, it is actually a human need to get outside, breathe the fresh air, get some of the sun on your skin, take your shoes off and get into nature. It's something we need. And I don't think that we do it enough, particularly in winter. I know that I feel myself sort of getting through towards the end of the July every year. And if I haven't spent time doing this, oh gosh, do I know it. I can feel it in my body. I know that I haven't spent enough time in the outdoors. So if that one's you, then that might be one on your list, just as a little reminder there, just to, get outside, take those shoes off and just remember to get into nature for a few moments. Okay. This one here was one that I think was a little bit of a reminder to me. This one came from Rachel and was really powerful because I think we all find it easy to blame other people when things have gone wrong. Sometimes we look at what someone else does or says. Maybe someone snapped at you and it's just put you in a mood. Maybe someone's done something to you that's been really hurtful. Maybe a situation has occurred where you think you just wish it didn't happen that way and how could they have done that? And Rachel said something really, really important that she said has been something that she's needed to remember over the years, her whole life. But it's just in recent times, she's had to keep reminding herself of this one. And I was like, yes. And that is to remind yourself that everyone has a story. Now, when you really think about it, How often has someone else been mad at you because of something that you've done to hurt or upset them? And you just think, if only you told me, because I would have told you why I did it, or what was going on for me at that time. And you think, how could you have just assumed that, the worst of me, when really I had my own story going on? So the truth is that, you know what? Everyone has their own story. Everyone has got their own world of challenges and frustrations that they're trying to navigate their way through as well. And sometimes we're just collateral damage. Sometimes that person just needs maybe a little bit of love, or maybe just the benefit of the doubt. And so I really like that one, because I think from a selfish perspective, when we give people the benefit of the doubt, when we don't assume the worst, it actually helps our internal pain. This actually comes back to that book I was telling you about, Loving What Is by Byron Katie, because this is one of the very things she talks about in that audiobook is, when we get mad at the situation or someone else, or frustrated at how could they have done that, or how could this have happened, really the only person that's suffering from that is you. So when we stop for a moment and we try and find the love in a situation, maybe find, how is it that even though that person did that thing to me, even though that person said that thing or behaved that way, what can I do that would be kind and loving to that person right now? Because do you know who's going to benefit from that the most? It's going to be you, probably more so than them. It probably will surprise them, but at the end of the day, you're the one that's going to walk away from it feeling like you took the higher road. And you know what? Sometimes you'll learn something. You'll go, I really am so glad this happens to me a little bit. You assume the worst in a situation, then you find out what was really going on. You think, I wish I knew that before, because I wouldn't have behaved the way that I did if I'd known what was actually going on for that person. So sometimes, and I get that this is hard, because, sometimes we react before we act out, and then we stop and think about it. But I really love Rachel's reminder just to remind yourself that everyone's got their own story, because it's so true right now. Everyone has their own story, their own challenges, their own frustrations going on. So just, maybe that little pause, that little moment, I think that was a really big reminder to me. And I've posted up on my wall just to remind myself every day, everyone has a story. Just be kind, treat them the way that I want to be treated, and just look for the love in the situation. Okay, the next one's from me, because this one is one of my go-tos. And before I say this, I know some of you will be thinking, I don't want to hear about that, Sam. Stop it, stop it, stop it. Do you know I went through some of my absolute toughest times, my worst moments in my life, and this was the one thing that pulled me through those. And that is the E word, exercise. Now, exercise doesn't have to be going out for a half marathon or a 10K run. It doesn't have to be really hard. Exercise could be as simple as, Rachel put me onto this fantastic little app. I'll pop it in the show notes that, has a little 7-minute routine that you can do in your living room with no equipment, with the kids floating around you, or you can do it in your bedroom if you don't want anyone watching you. But you come out the other side of it feeling like you got a little bit of a workout done, and you only spent 7 minutes doing it. It might be as simple as learning some yoga poses or going to do a class. It could be going for a walk, or it could be what I've been doing recently, which is learning to run. And the really great thing about exercise is that, number one, it releases endorphins, the feel-good chemical from your brain that actually helps you cope. It helps you feel great. And guess what? It's addictive. So that once you get into a little bit of a habit, it's easier and easier and easier to keep going. And those moments where I feel like I really don't want to, I know that they're the moments I need it the most. So I've also learned how to deal with self-sabotage in this way, because I've been the worst at this over the years. About 10 years ago, no, it wasn't 10 years ago. It was nearly 9 years ago, because it was not long after I had my youngest son, Levi. I weighed around about 20 kilos heavier than I do now, and I was super unhealthy. I was super unfit. I was bordering on, actually, no, I wasn't bordering on. I had postnatal depression, and I was not in good shape at all. I decided one day that was it. I was going to do something about this. I didn't want to go onto any medication. I didn't want to have to take antidepressants to deal with things. So I decided to do some research myself and figure out how I could naturally pull myself out of it. And one of the things that just kept coming up, and I was so frustrated by this, but it was exercise, because I was unfit. I'd never, ever been one to get out and do much exercise. And I did not want to do that at all, but I had to do something. So I just simply started walking. I used to take the pram out and I'd walk. And I started by walking just half a kilometer. And then within a week or so, I would be going out and doing a kilometer. Then I would be running for 100 meters and then walking for 400 meters. And I just slowly took it one little step at a time, quite literally, until I got to a point where instead of being frustrated at having to go out and do exercise every day, I started to look forward to going out and doing exercise every day. It became habitual and it became something that made me feel great. And I started to notice something really interesting. When I was getting grumpy, and actually, to be fair, Greg probably picked up on this quicker than I did. When I started to get grumpy, I'd ask myself the question, how long has it been since I've done some exercise? And it was usually at that sort of 2 to 3 day mark. If I hadn't done anything, I started to notice that my attitude shifted. My demeanor shifted, and I started to go down into a little bit of a hole. I started to be grumpy and irritable and frustrated. I'd go out and I'd go for a little run, or I'd do a class at the gym. And the next thing you know, I was feeling fantastic again. So it's really amazing what it can do. But like I said, I've dealt with self-sabotage over the years. So now I know that I need to, for me, either book into a class, or I need a personal trainer. And I really believe, I know it can be expensive, but I really believe in the value of sometimes stretching yourself to pay for something that's going to make you a bit uncomfortable because you really, really do value it then. And a personal trainer for me has been that over the years. Greg and I actually treat it like date time. We have, since we met, we've seen a personal trainer once a week, and we go together and we treat it like a date. We do a workout together with the personal trainer, and it's been one of probably the most precious times that we've spent together. And what's really great about that is the kids are often with us. So they've observed us being really prioritizing exercise in our lives, even when we didn't feel like it. And they've watched that process. And now we've got kids that really value the importance of exercise as well, which is something I didn't have as a child. So that's something for me that's been a massive coping mechanism. And I really do believe that it's important. We need it. So, and I can speak from experience. I've been there where I was not getting it, and I know how much I need it now. So if that's something you've been putting off, maybe just figure out, what can you do? What's the little thing that you can do in that space? Okay, so that's exercise. Now I want to talk about the flip side, which is essentially dealing with the anxiety side of things. Now, something that I learned from a number of, very talented individuals in this space is the value of box breathing. Now, I started doing this recently, and I am just blown away at how effective it can be. So box breathing is where you stop, usually when you're feeling a little bit stressed, or even if you're about to go into, a big meeting and you want to clear your head, or you come out of a big meeting and you want to clear your head, or you want to switch into a creative zone. You stop, you take a breath in for 4 seconds, you hold it for 4 seconds, you breathe out for 4 seconds, you hold it for 4 seconds, and you just keep repeating that. So in for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, out for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds. It's called box breathing. And it's an amazing way of clearing your head. It's an amazing way of reducing stress and anxiety. And for me, it's been a really great reset sometimes when you're just feeling like you're overwhelmed and you don't know what to do next. And sometimes just doing that exercise for just a few moments is a great way to stop and go, okay, clarity, this is the next best thing I can do right now. This is what I should be focusing on. So box breathing is really powerful. Now, I'm going to bring up another one now, which is one of my big downfalls. This is something that I know I should be doing more of, and I've come up with a trick. You ready? Drinking water. I definitely have struggled over the years with drinking enough water. I love having things that are interesting. So coffee, tea, herbal tea, but water can be really boring. I've always got a hot cup of something there. And then, to be fair, many nights I will then switch to wine when I get to after work. And so I've had to be really conscious about how do I reduce those other things and do more of the water things. So I learned a little trick. I worked out that if when I go to the toilet, I have a big glass of water, or I make sure that I stand there, and even if it's slowly over a few minutes, maybe not sculling, but if I just drink a glass of water before I go back to my desk, even if it's just wandering around for a few moments, it won't be very long before I need to go back to the toilet again. Now, sipping water requires me to remember to do it, right? So aside from the fact that I now carry a good quality drink bottle around with me all of the time, that's easy. I actually like something I don't have to unscrew the lid of. So these flip top ones, I've got several of them. They're great because I don't need to unscrew, tip up, any of that stuff. I can quickly have a drink if I'm in the car wherever I am. But that little toilet trick has actually been the one way over the years that I have ensured that I'm getting enough water. And I know when I'm not getting enough. So if you're one of those people like me that struggles a little bit with that, that's been one of the things that I've done. And I found that really helpful. So just, drinking a whole glass after every time I go to the bathroom requires me to go back to the bathroom within too much time. And then I'm drinking another glass of water. So it's kind of this little cool cycle that goes on. It also gets me out of my seat and away from my desk as well, which is also a bit of a win-win. Okay. Another one that I just want to bring up while we're talking about dealing with other people. We sort of spoke about reminding yourself that everyone has a story. Well, the flip side of that as well is understanding a little bit more about other individuals, and a little journey that Greg and I have been going on for the last few years, which has been a really fascinating journey, is understanding different personalities. Now, this has been really cool. It's been great fun learning about personalities, both of our children, understanding what makes them tick, but also of those around us, people that we struggle with as much as those that we really love and enjoy being around. So one of the books that I found very valuable to read over the years has been the Love Languages book. Now, there is a children's version of this too, which I do highly recommend. But the cool thing about this is it tells you how other people tick when it comes to their love language. Now, I've observed a few things in this space. Now, since remarrying, Greg and I have had to learn some new skills. We've had to understand the difference between how people both give and receive love, and understand that just because somebody is doing it in a different way to you doesn't mean that there's something fundamentally wrong in the relationship. It just means that that person is tuned into receiving love in a different way. So to give you a little example of this, I love receiving and giving gifts. Gift giving is something that makes me feel loved, but I also love to make others feel loved with this. And so when I want Greg to feel loved, what do? I go and I buy him a gift, or I make him a gift, or I do something for him, because acts of service is another one of my high priority love languages. So I might cook him an amazing meal. The thing is that Greg's love language is words of affirmation and physical touch. So if he wants to feel loved, he wants me to say to him, I love you and you're amazing. Or he wants me to give him a hug or hold his hand. Now, because that's not how I receive love, it's also not how I tend to naturally deliver it either. So watch those people around you. It's not because I don't love Greg. It's because I think that the way that he should feel loved is the same way I feel loved, and it's not the case. So I need to remind myself sometimes that in order to make him feel loved, I've got to do something that doesn't necessarily feel natural to me. I need to hold his hand, give him a hug, and tell him how awesome he is. And he likewise needs to think, what could I do as an act of service for Sam? So he might go and cook me dinner. That is not something he would naturally go and do in order to make me feel loved, because that wouldn't make him feel loved. So this is a really interesting process that I've found incredibly valuable with the kids as well, because you'll notice that with your kids, you do everything you can for them. You love them to death, and you show them usually in the way that you receive love. You show your children, right? But here's the interesting thing. They receive love in a different way to you as well. And so they may not be reading what you're doing as being loving. So it's a really great thing to be a little bit curious and get to know what different people's love languages are. Now, you can read the book, and that's a great way to get to know this a little bit better. But another thing I recommend that you do is just observe, because usually people will show you their love language with the way they treat others. So have a little bit of a look at what they do to their loved ones, and you'll notice, that person is constantly serving others, or they're constantly cooking and doing the washing, and that's how they show their family they love them. That probably means that act of service is also their love language. Or maybe there's someone who are very, very good at telling you how amazing you are. Those people that are always being so complimentary, that's usually someone who has words of affirmation, and they need to hear that sort of stuff in return. There's also gift giving. There is quality time, and then you've got physical touch. There's 5 love languages. So I do recommend checking that book out. And I also recommend as well, there's a free little quiz you can do online on the Love Languages website as well that will help you identify yours, but you can also ask your family members to do it to identify theirs. It's just really fascinating, and I found that super helpful. Another one that's really great in that space, I'm not going to dive into right now, is the Enneagram. There are 9 different personality types in the Enneagram. Again, incredibly fascinating. And if you're interested in all this stuff, a really good book to read as well is a book that I picked up recently from the airport called Surrounded by Idiots, which basically tells you a bit about the different personalities and how everybody seems like an idiot until you get to know what it is that makes them tick and makes them unique and different. So it's a really cool little one to pick up and have a bit of a fun read of. And, it teaches you as well how to really quickly identify different personality types in people, even just in one interaction. So that's a bit of a fun one for you. There's so many out there, so many. And the Enneagram, again, is another really great one. If you're looking at, I think it's Unlocking Us, the podcast by Brené Brown, she actually goes right into the Enneagram in there. So again, really great one to check out. Now, just a couple more before we wrap up this episode. Another thing that we've learned over the years is so incredibly important that we tend to put to the side are our own personal values. Greg and I recognize that our personal values, for him, it's family, fun, and travel. For me, it's love, travel, and explore. Now, if I'm not getting a chance to travel, or I'm not getting a chance to feel loved, which is something that you both can and can't control, or if I'm not exploring in some way, shape, or form, I tend to feel a bit ugh and yuck. So sometimes it's a matter of stopping for a moment, going, what are some of the things that I really value? A really beautiful friend of mine, Sharon, told me one day to write down a list of things that soothe my soul. She said, just do a brain dump, literally write down everything that soothes your soul, from eating a packet of chips to having a hot bath to going for a walk to shopping. Write all those things down. And then when you're feeling like you need to fill your cup, you need a little pick me up, get that list, have it somewhere that you can easily locate it, and go through it and think, what's one thing I could do right now that would soothe my soul, that would just fill my cup a little? And usually those things are really good little keys to things that you value. If you don't know what your true values are in life, and sometimes it takes a bit of help to work those out, we've been very privileged to have that help. This little list has also been a really great way of identifying some of those ways that you can soothe your soul. So I do recommend just sitting down after this episode, just a little brain dump for you. Just get out a piece of scrap paper and write down all of the little things that you can do that soothe your soul. And then when you need to, you can just pick one of those things. It's a really good thing as well to show your partner. Greg and I did this exercise, and then we exchanged lists. So we were each also able to help one another. So, if I'm really struggling, Greg knows, what? Something I could do for Sam is I could run a hot bath for her and pour her a glass of red wine, and that's something that will soothe her soul. Or he might give me some time to go away and read a really good story, just, without me feeling like I have to have a conversation or be a part of anything else that's going on around me. I can just have some quiet time to do that. And likewise, I've got his list and I know what I can do to help him. It might be just giving him a nice long hug, or it might just be, sitting on the couch and holding his hand while we watch a TV show or something. So getting to know what you can do for yourself is such an important, valuable thing. And it inspires me as well. So I think when you've taken that time to really think about how can I love Sam? What can I do for Sam? I think that in itself is a really special thing to do. I'm also just going to throw one out there for the girls. Shopping. I love shopping. Shopping soothes my soul. Shopping is something that I love, love, love to do. And it goes along with explore. Rachel and I both looked at each other when this one came up and went, yep, if we're feeling a little grumpy or a little down or we need a little pick me up, shopping is it. Now, here's what's really weird. I could go to the supermarket and go shopping and I'd be happy, because for me, it's about exploring things and finding something new, or getting a little bit creative and coming up with a new recipe to try and going and getting the ingredients. It might be going to a new Asian grocer that, I haven't been to before, or it could be clothes shopping. Let's face it, clothes and shoe shopping, always great. But I've also got a little trick because we don't always have the budget to shop, right? And I certainly don't. We get given a little allocation for shopping because otherwise, you know what, I'd empty the bank account shopping if I could. So I get a little allocation I'm allowed to use for personal shopping. And so one of the things that I have caught myself doing is I'll go shopping online, but I don't check out. It's kind of embarrassing, really, but I'll fill my shopping cart. And by the time I get to the shopping cart, I think I'm not spending that much money on clothes. And you know what? I never complete the cart, but I feel like I have scratched an itch. I've gone, I've explored, I've done some shopping, and I've got it out of my system. So I don't know about you if that will work for you or not, but it's a little trick from me to you. That's something I've caught myself doing many times over the years, and certainly gives me a little pick me up and makes me feel great without spending a cent. So there's that one. Doesn't mean I don't ever spend a cent, by the way, but it's a really fun one there. The last one I want to touch on, I've got last two I want to touch on. The second to last one I want to mention is to do something for someone else. This was something that we all totally agreed on. It was a really great little pick me up. If you're feeling a bit blah and you need to fill your cup, yes, you need to invest in yourself first. But do you know, I actually find that sometimes it really fills my cup to make someone else feel amazing. And sometimes doing a little something for someone else can help with that. And there's lots of different ways that you can do this. For me, I really love to give a gift. And the reason is because that's one of my values. That's one of the things that really matters to me. It is my love language as well. So I love to give a little gift. But it might also just be, picking the phone up and just telling someone that they're awesome. Do you know that another thing that I've really enjoyed doing over the years is every now and again just getting a blank card and writing just a little gratitude card to someone, maybe someone I haven't spoken to in a very, very long time. Now, I don't ever know if that person receives it. I've sent many off over the years, and I don't know if I got the address wrong. I don't know if they ever got received. But it's not about that. It's about filling my cup by doing my best to make someone else feel a little bit special and a little bit important. You might find that for you, it's something like Meals on Wheels or volunteering or, donating some stuff somewhere. But doing something for someone else in a selfish little way is also a really great thing to fill up our cup as well. So that was another thing on our list. Now, I just want to go to the very, very last thing. This very last thing is something that for me is always a go-to. And I know that for all of us, sometimes it's the only thing we can do. Do you know, when you get to a point where you are feeling really anxious, you're feeling really exhausted, you're feeling overwhelmed, and I can count numerous times in the last few months that has been me. So I'm going to put my hand up and say 100% I've been there recently. In those moments, sometimes doing something big or even thinking about what to do next is hard. You don't necessarily know what's the next best way to turn, what the next decision is to make. But one thing that you can do is one little thing. You can complete one little thing, even if it doesn't seem to matter. So something like going for a walk, going for a small run, even cleaning out a drawer, completing something small can do wonders for helping you with that next step. For me, it could even be something as small as I wanted to set myself a little challenge this year of trying to read through the Bible. I've never read through the Bible before, and I don't allocate time to do it, and yet it's something I've always wanted to do more of. So I downloaded a little app that gives me a little piece every day, a little tiny piece every day to read. And it picks out what I get, and it goes all over the place. I'm getting different passages from different spots. Sometimes for me, that little thing that I complete is simply reading that little piece on each day. And that might just take 5 minutes, but I feel like I've completed something. If the rest of my day goes completely haywire and I don't get anything meaningful done, I know I completed something today that I feel good about. And that could be whatever it is for you. But sometimes, it's just about doing something small. If you feel overwhelmed, if you feel like you don't know what to do next, just what is something small you can complete? Just the next thing, just the next step. So guys, that's our list. It's a pretty long list, but I know you're going to be able to put together an even longer, more comprehensive list for you. And I do really recommend doing that exercise that Greg and I did of just doing the brainstorm of things that soothe your soul. What are some of the little pick-me-ups that you can do to fill up your cup? So if you're feeling a little bit at the moment and, you need a little bit of a pick-me-up, I hope that gives you a few little cool ideas. And in some ways, I hope it gives you permission to invest in you, because do you know what? You can't be what you need to be for the rest of the world if you aren't first investing in you. The thing is, you are so incredibly valuable. You've got a mission here on this earth. You've got something that you were put here to do. So the first thing that you need to do is you need to look after yourself. So I hope that gives you permission to go away right now and do something special for you, because you're amazing, you matter, and I want to see a great big smile on your dial the next time we cross each other's paths. So guys, I hope that's been a bit of a fun listen today for you. I hope it's been helpful. Thanks for tuning on in. I look forward to seeing you again on the podcast next week, but most importantly for right now, take care, look after yourself, and do a little bit of self-love.